Hello and welcome to the LC Transfer Room live stream. My name is Rigo. I'm your host today, joined by Steven and Race. Welcome aboard, boys. How are we doing today? Go to you first, Steven.
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. The scoreline of today's game doesn't necessarily reflect the performances of many of the players, but I'm very happy with the performance of a lot of the players. Not so happy, with some of the players, but yeah, very happy with today's game and how it went and how the guys performed.
Definitely, and the match Steven's referring to obviously is the 4-4 draw with Furth. We'll dive into that momentarily. Hey, Race, how you doing today, bud?
Doing good. I'm a little tired because some of these preseason games start a little earlier across the pond here in America. So I'm powering through here this afternoon here.
Definitely. 7 a.m. start for me, 6 a.m. for you, Race. Steven over in Ireland, right at the heart of your day. So I'm sure you were nice and bright and ready for the match today. So,
I was in the middle of work. I just was working and watching the game. So,
all right. Well, thank God you're not a physician or a nurse. So let's dive right into today's match. So obviously 4-4 draw. We would have liked to get another win after that 4-2 win the other day, but a 4-4, a couple of bright spots definitely. First off, Lucho looks ready for the season after coming back from that injury spell towards the end of last year, just scoring once in his 9 matches towards the end of the year. He looks definitely ready for this season. What were your thoughts on his performance today, Stevie?
they were great. You could really see that how we were playing in the first half really opened up them down their right-hand side, our left-hand side, allowing Luis Diaz to play off that and run into an awful lot of space. So what you could see was he was really playing like he did towards the start of last season before he kind of got the injury, where he was running down the left, cutting inside onto his right, and just causing havoc. And his goal was absolutely beautiful footwork to operate around 3 players in a very tight window and then curl it around the keeper into the bottom corner. And you could see in his own reaction to the goal as well. Normally you wouldn't see a guy screaming and shouting at a preseason goal, but it clearly meant a lot to him, and it's nice to see him back on the scorecard as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he's performing this season.
Definitely. You kind of have to rebuild not just the confidence in your skills as a player, but in confidence in that knee as well. And being the shifty player like he is, he definitely needs all his appendages. Welcome aboard, Tico. Some technical issues, but glad you're on. Yeah, you're on the stream here. I'll kick it over to you next. Thoughts on Lucho and other thoughts on the match.
Well, Lucho did a great job during the match. He was playing very well, not only the goal, but all the other actions that he was involved in. He was moving very clearly in spaces and trying to exploit all his abilities in not only in tight spaces, but trying to move behind the opposition defense. And he was doing great. He actually had a similar chance at the beginning of the match, and it was a great save by the keeper. So he was cooking. He was doing great job, and he definitely looks like he's back to full confidence and doing the things that we all love about him.
Definitely, and we certainly need him. He's pretty much our one natural left winger on the squad, and he's certainly very valuable to us. And we got to say no to any Saudi interest for his services. Race. As far as that first half, Liverpool definitely held control the majority of that first half, aside from a couple of half chances there. Then Doak providing a lot of danger. With your thoughts on Ben, and should he stay or should we look to loan him out? Should he be the understudy for Salah going into this year?
Yeah, he looks pretty natural, in his spot out there on the right wing, and it didn't look like he really missed a beat. He kind of fit in well with the team. He's only 17 years old, and I guess I would like to see him kind of get some more game time and possibly loan him out to a championship side because, again, that right wing spot, that's solid spot, and we know how reliable he's been in that position. And, he's in terms of fitness and just performance and all that. So, I think that's just a really hard spot to break in, and we want to see him now kind of develop into a player and see what we have in that. Because we don't want to think of a future after Salah right now because he's as good as there is right now. But he looked really lively. Had some good chances there. I think I can't remember if there was one where maybe should have scored or had some nice shots or whatever. But yeah, he looks like a real natural on that side. Excited to see more of him. And he got that start in the first half with our better half. More first team players out there.
Our better midfield at least, right?
Yes, yeah, and he had it was Diaz and Jota out there, and Jota looked good as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a good environment for him to kind of showcase what he can do, and he's just a really really fast guy, lots of pace. Really excited to see what he could become. Hopefully something. But I would like to see him. I think there just isn't a spot for him right now in our team, but certainly in the preseason, get him some run, and then maybe a championship club, or a few, or would certainly take him on because he could certainly provide a spark to some team.
Steven, I'll go with you on that as well. Loan or keep him for the season. My thought on it is, just before you go into yours, is we don't really have a right winger besides Salah on the squad, and with Salah and AFCON coming in the turn of the year, it would be beneficial to have a natural sub in during that time period. Your thoughts on it?
No, yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd also say that we have. See, what's perfect about the Szoboszlai transfer is he comes in and he can play on that right wing if needs be too. But I would keep Doak purely for the fact that we're going to have 27 games before Christmas, thereabouts. And then that's not to include the likes of any Europa League games and group stage games. And then there's Carabao Cup, and then there's your FA Cup games. Like Ben Doak will get a lot of minutes this season, and especially then with AFCON in January. Salah, I think, is due to miss 2 to 3 different games that are there, maybe more, depending on how deep of a run they make in that tournament. And I think Egypt want him there sooner, meaning that we lose him for longer. But with the likes of Szoboszlai and Ben Doak out there being able to fill in spots, I know he's very, very young, and he does need some aspects of his game that need to be crafted a little bit more. On the ball, he's devastating. He any fullback or centre back that he was running against today, and I understand it's a lower tier German team we were playing today, but still, like on a professional level,
they're grown men, right?
They're grown men, and at the age that they are, and they're grown men, and at the age that they are, that they're fearful of a teenager dribbling the ball at them speaks volumes of the quality that he is as a player. I would like him to pull his head up a little bit more and look, rather than head down, barrel through a couple of players and get a shot off. He was very unlucky not to score in that first half, I will say that. But if you can get his head up and get a pass off, or have that second instinct that he has in his peripheral vision, much like Salah does if he needs to get a pass in, when Salah used to get passes into the likes of Firmino or Sadio Mane, back when those three were up front. I think we have a very, very special player on our hands here. And as Klopp pointed out in training, the future and the present of Scotland are currently on that Liverpool team.
Yeah, definitely. He definitely looks electric and aggressive, which is one character trait that I love, especially in an attacking player. Tico, your thoughts on whether or not we should loan out Ben Doak prior to the season start?
No, I agree. We should keep him, and he has technical ability that is not easy to find, and he's a natural right winger. So definitely we need somebody who can provide depth in that position. Elliott is there, but he's not gonna do the same things he does. Elliott is more of a different player, different winger. If even when he was playing in Blackburn Rovers, he was playing in that position, but he was not playing in the same way Doak is doing it, or the same way Salah does it. And about that, Doak has kind of there are some similarities between what he does and what Salah does, and if he's able to keep on producing those performances and he's able to keep on getting better and better every day, he's definitely going to have some opportunities, and we definitely need him. We're going to have a lot of matches during this year, and why not? Loaning him out is not just clear for me, not at all.
Definitely. I think the opportunities will be there. You kind of have to weigh where will he learn and mature more on a loan move or every day facing, players, world-class players, at Melwood. So that's the kind of the balance. And with the makeup of our squad, we likely won't have enough homegrown players to register a 25-man squad. So you kind of need those younger players, under 21 players, who you don't have to register, that are also quality, and Doak fits right into that. So, and as you were mentioning, Harvey Elliott's not so much of a natural like for like with Salah. Too slow a foot, in my opinion. I thought he played very well today. He provided 2 hockey assists to set up Salah, who then set up Darwin, and we'll get to Darwin in a moment. But definitely, I would agree and keep Doak, and that seems to be the consensus in the chat as well. I'd like to remind all 56 of our current viewers to make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It definitely assists us here at the channel. We appreciate your feedback and your support. Now on to Darwin. Darwin looking freaking great and turning hopefully some of those doubters into believers, as we like to say around here. I'll go over to you, Race. Your thoughts on Darwin, and is he nailed on as our lead striker?
I think the jury's still out on that, but he looked very sharp today. And I think what we liked the most about it was just how composed he was in his finishes, because sometimes it seems like he's just so wild in front of net. He's just running around, stabbing at the ball, or, it's off his shin or something, it's clear that he's working on, the finishing, that polish in front of goal. And that's a really welcome sight to see, because, with how good our attack looked in the first half, it's good to see that we've got a really deep group of strikers and goal scorers and just, attackers up front. I thought he looked really sharp, and, good to see that after the last game, where he kind of, laid off the pass to Salah, and then it went back to him, and he eventually scored. But, we wanted to see him take that one first time. Yeah. We want to see him take it first time. So, we want to see that attacking, that sense. I really like that first goal that he had, where he just kind of slid him the pass. He slid right past the keeper to the right and slotted it in. He nearly had a hat trick too. He had a really good header at the end towards the 90th minute. And so that's just a good save by the goalkeeper. But yeah, I think it's a really welcome sight. And again, we have a deep group, and the competition is just going to bring out the best. Hopefully it does. And we certainly saw that with Jota too, looking sharp in the first half. But Nunez then came on in the second, and then he was just like, "Oh, I'll get these 2 goals here." So it remains to be seen who necessarily is going to be starting up front in that first game. I think that's what preseason's for. You kind of you figure that out. But I guess I would say Nunez might be leading the race right now, just with the goals he scored.
Yeah, definitely putting his hat into the thought process there, especially after what we paid for him last season. Tico, your thoughts on Darwin and on Darwin's double, and is he nailed in your first 11?
Well, I've got to be honest. I was here watching the first time and the first half, and I was like, man, Jota has to play. He's been excellent. For me, he was the best player on the pitch during the first half. And I was like, oh, man, Jota's just amazing. And then second half comes, and then the beast, Darwin Nunez, came, and he was playing amazing. Race was mentioning about how composed he was in order to finish all the goals. But I would also add that he was making smart movements. Last year, I remember he was a little bit like stubborn sometimes, and he was just doing the same thing all the time. And yeah, he was very dangerous sometimes, but sometimes the defense just could move with him and try to stop him. But today he was just moving into different positions of the field and trying to get closer to more dangerous spaces, and that was amazing. I would also like to mention the fact that I love the way he is combining with Salah. There's
Definitely.
something special there. I can
That
see it.
chemistry is building for sure, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think he's there. He's there. He is my starting position, starting player in that position for the beginning of the season. But I'm just so happy that everybody up front is doing what they're supposed to be doing. And yeah, Darwin has been just amazing, amazing.
And Steven, it took him a year to acclimate to Benfica before he started firing in the goals and subsequently moved to Liverpool the following year after that. Is it the same case with our team as well? It seems to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, he came over here without really a word of English. He had some phrases, but when you go from living in the sunny Portuguese weather and then all of a sudden land over to sometimes sunny Liverpool and everybody around you doesn't speak the same language as you, you feel a bit alienated, and you could kind of see that in his play. And football is a universal language that transcends all sorts of cultures and languages and creeds, but it only goes so far, unfortunately. And I think this off season has really helped him. And something that Klopp preaches and shouts at is pressing starts from the front. The reason Jota is while not being bigger, stronger, or faster than most players, the reason Jota starts ahead of him a lot of the times last season and when he was back and healthy was purely because he pressed better, and he had that dog in him, he had that fight in him at the time. And not to say that Darwin didn't, but he wasn't the pressing forwards that we could have used last season. He still was able to get goals left, right, and center. And if you think about the last guy that came over that had a bit of a poor first season and then kind of exploded in the second season, that was Luis Suarez, his fellow countryman. So it's not out of the ordinary to say. And everybody that I know, I've always been preaching that Darwin Nunez will come good. You know it, Race knows it, Tico knows it. I constantly preach it in the group that we have, that he will come good. And lo and behold, he nearly had a hat-trick and an assist today. And I understand, again, it's a lower tier German side. I get that.
It still counts to me.
It still counts. Yeah, it counts. Right? What I said to the guys earlier was that the scoreline doesn't matter. The lead up to the goals is what matters. The play that leads to the goals is what matters. The first goal with Darwin, the beautiful little cut inside, right between the two centre backs and just in behind him, and a quick chip, something very similar to the Cody Gakpo goal against Man United. Mm-hmm. And then the second goal, just a beautiful take, turn and run. And for a lot of us, our gripe with Darwin last year is when he has time to think about things, he overthinks it. Hence last week with the other game, he passed it instead of taking it first time, and then took it first time when the rebound came back to him. He's an enigma of a player, and that little touch between the centre back's legs and then a quick left foot curled it around the keeper. I was sitting just completely shocked, slack-jawed from the movement of him. It's night and day.
That's what was missing, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what was missing. And then his assist on his left foot as well, tearing up the left side of the pitch, using his pace, strength, and just outright speed to outrun and outgun the defender that's there. And unfortunately, if he got a hat-trick, my two man of the matches for the first half, it would have been Diogo Jota, purely for his pressing, his link-up play with Diaz and Doak, and then in the second half it was Darwin, because he was untouchable, genuinely. And to be perfectly honest with you, he was only getting fed from Salah in that second half. You add in Trent, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gakpo, and that's another four or five playmakers that are there that could very easily keep feeding him the ball. And I very much enjoyed Gakpo in the position that he was in. He sort of played
center mid.
Yeah, but if you noticed, he moved forward a little bit and played a bit of a 10 role. And McAllister done the same thing. They were kind of alternating. If one went back, the other one stayed. If one was stayed back, the other guy went forward. So if Gakpo had the ball as an advancing forward, McAllister would drop. If McAllister brought the ball forward, Gakpo would then drop. And in that centre role, Gakpo was fantastic in midfield. He was turning guys inside out, and he's a big guy too.
He has that
So
size and
he's got size,
quick
speed,
turning-
and
quick turning
massive
ability.
agility. Yeah, he's
He knows how to use
fantastic.
his body to shield players very well as well.
Exactly, it's like a post player in basketball, sealing someone off and then turning around them. It was beautiful to watch. Our front 5 to 6 is going to be absolutely deadly this season, and will give centre backs, full backs, and defensive midfielders nightmares and sleepless nights. The only thing we need to work on is our back 4 and the transition going back and defending on a counter attack, because that caught us out a couple of times this game.
Yes, and we're going to get to that side of the pitch as well. Once again, make sure to like and subscribe. We're up to 63 viewers on here. Thank you all so much for joining our channel, our live stream here. Yes, Adrian, holy cow, that was a horrendous pass. You kind of you have to feel horrible for the academy kid that he passed it to. We got to keep Kelleher, right? Tico, your thoughts? Kelleher can't move at this point, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and the good thing about playing Adrian today is the fact that he's shown that he knows he cannot be playing. So we need Kelleher, definitely need him. And for me, Adrian is, I don't understand why we signed him again, but he's just shown there that if by any chance he is our number 2 keeper in the season, because we let Kelleher go, then we're gonna have some nasty headaches.
Yeah, I totally agree. After the Howlers against Atletico Madrid that knocked us out of the Champions League, 4 years now, I would have thought his days would have been kind of numbered. We would have treated him like Karius, but we have not, and we re-signed him again, taking up a non-homegrown spot. Race. Should Liverpool tempt fate and let Kelleher go, considering Adrian, to me, brings no confidence to our team.
I really, really, really hope that signing Adrian to that extension doesn't come back to bite us in the ass, and just you saw right there that he just doesn't have a role in this team and shouldn't be on the field. We should really try to keep Kelleher for as long as we can. I mean, that is just an ideal backup goalkeeper. He's good enough to be a 1 somewhere else, but is just stuck behind the best goalkeeper in the world right now in Alisson. Of course, if the player himself wants to leave, I'm sure we'll accommodate that. But obviously we'd like to be in the Champions League this year, but I think if Kelleher stays, that Europa League goalkeeper spot will be given to Kelleher, because that's a really good spot for him to get some more European games underneath him, be with most of the first team and whatnot. And of course,
that value as well. Teams have to see him perform also, right? He took pretty much all of last year off.
Yep, his price will only go up as long as he doesn't completely, have some stinkers out there. Like his value is going to keep climbing. And so, yeah, if there's any more evidence that we need to not play Adrian, today was another instance of that. And I hope that I would rather see one of our academy keepers out there instead of Adrian. I mean, he doesn't have the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure it'd be a different conversation if it was a young goalkeeper making that mistake, but he's a veteran goalkeeper. He's been around a long time. He shouldn't be making that pass, especially in a preseason game. There's no reason, it's just bad all around.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's just bad all around. It's just bad.
I mean, I'd ask him to boot it, but his kicking isn't great either.
I don't know. I would have kicked it out. I think he could have went just to his left and just kicked it out of bounds. There's a player there, but he could have just done anything other than what he did. Anything else would have been fine.
It's funny because he's so confident, but that's his mind, but not his feet. He's confident about doing something, but he does it all wrong. So.
Yeah. As Haler noted on the chat here, he's definitely has a role on the background of the team in assisting the Spanish-speaking players, and is obviously a good guy. I think probably Alisson's best friend on the team currently. So good to have around, kind of like a Costa Simicas. But again, is it worth that roster spot? versus the production that he can offer when called upon. That's kind of what you kind of have to weigh as a manager and as a team. So, as you said, Race, hopefully he doesn't come back to bite us in the butt, giving him that extension, and he isn't relied upon or called upon. And we have Allison for the majority and Kelleher for any other matches that, as you mentioned, League Cup matches or perhaps Europa. Once again, make sure to like and subscribe. In addition to Adrian, a few other mistakes were made in that second half in conceding goals. Matip, super lackadaisical in trying to clear off that ball. That's another goal. We need CBs, don't we, guys? Steven, your thoughts on our defense overall in the second half, and what do we need to do to improve? Or should we be worried on top of that?
We should not be worried about our starters. We should be worried about our depth, and that's both a good and bad problem to have. Thankfully, we sort of, I say thankfully, Trent doesn't miss games, and Robbo doesn't miss games. Our problem is that Virgil is getting up there in age, and maybe more susceptible to injuries. Konate is slightly injury prone. He could take a knock and miss a couple of games. And Rigo, I know you love Joe Gomez, but I just can't. I cannot get on the Joe Gomez train. He hasn't been good in about 3 years. I don't know why he's still there. That man is currently stealing a living, playing as well as Adrian. How Adrian got re-signed. I like the three. The scoreline doesn't reflect how we were defensively. In the first half, we had counter pressing. It was beautiful. It was like the Liverpool of old, that we were pressing from the get-go. They didn't have one moment to breathe, and it was fantastic to watch. And then in the second half, with the change of the defenders and then Adrian going in goal, it caused problems straight away with lack of experience and playing time and lack of play at a high level. Adrian just played the ball straight out to I think McCallum or something. I can't remember the name of the youth. McConnell, excuse me. Thank you, Ray.
Yeah.
McConnell, the youth player that was playing, and he was playing in midfield at the time. But he was already under pressure before he even got the ball, and all of a sudden he puts it into the back of our own net. I wouldn't count that down to anybody's error other than Adrian, because realistically, if that's Allison or Kelleher, that doesn't happen. So you can strike one of them goals off. The second one, it was just a really half-hearted effort by Joel Matip to clear the ball, and then no attempt at any sort of a recovery. So realistically, if that's Van Dijk or that's Konate, that ball is gone. So I'd nearly chalk that one up as well. There was the third goal where, now it was a beautifully worked goal by Furth. It was beautifully worked. Their centre forward just drove the ball forward, dribbled forward. Our three defenders that were left back there all converged on him, but then all dissipated away from him. And then he wrapped a beautiful ball into the bottom left-hand corner. And really, again, if that's our starting front back four, that's not happening. So while you can be happy in the knowledge of the first half and knowing those goals won't happen, if we're letting those goals in with backups and we're hoping to try and go far in the likes of cup tournaments and everything, and we don't want to be playing the likes of Van Dijk and Konate week in, week out. Same with Allison. That's why we cannot lose Kelleher. He's my fellow countryman. I absolutely adore him. I think he could very, very, very easily be Ireland's number one if given first team minutes in the Premier League, given how badly Gavin Bazunu's season went last year, having played with Southampton. He sees that the number one national spot is open, and a move away could very much solidify that for him. He's caught between a rock and a hard place. He's at a fantastic club that would love to keep him for the next 10 to 15 years, but he's also playing behind the best goalkeeper in the league in Allison, who's going to be at the level he's at for another 3 or 4 years. And then by that point, Kelleher will have gone past the start of his peak years and not have probably developed in a way that he would have liked. We definitely need centre backs. Inacio is still there with a release clause, begging to be taken.
I don't get that one. Like, so simple. Just
to be honest, as I think I said it to you before, that because there's a release clause there, it's probably put on the long waiting list. It's like, look, we can pay it when we want. We'll try and sort out a couple of other spots first. Realistically, I'd have CDM as a higher priority, unfortunately, because of the loss of Henderson and Fabinho that's going to be occurring in the next couple of days, we assume. So I'd have that as the priority, because you could really see that while Trent is a great forward-going player in that position, he needs to be in a pivot. He's just not the destroyer of a CDM we're going to need if we want to go far in any competition. So there's a couple of holes that need to be filled. I think they could be filled by a couple of different players, Inacio being one. I think Lavia is going to be the next guy through the door, and I genuinely think the weight on Inacio is purely down to the fact that there is a release clause and we know we can kind of go get him when we want to, and there's not really much noise about him going anywhere else other than staying with Sporting. So it's really, I think we're probably one of very, very few in the race for him. Really no more interest in him.
We'll see.
I don't believe that. Yeah, I don't believe
I hope not. I hope the book isn't closed on him.
No, I really don't, because I think Inacio could be our Virgil van Dijk replacement to go alongside Konate. Now, unless in my viewing of him, I'm missing something completely, and I'm not a professional scout, so I don't know. But there's a couple of players that we could go for. I think the first of which should be Lavia, and it is a massive shame about Inacio. I think he's a fantastic player. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic. He can play the ball out. He's a fantastic ball playing defender, and he's fantastic on the defensive side of the ball. I said it when I started streaming with you guys. He would have been my dream signing. So if we get him, I'll be over the moon. We do need a defensive overhaul, as Mohammed says there in a comment, but I think that defensive overhaul is going to happen over the next 3 windows, this one included, this January and next summer. That's kind of going to happen. I think the Bellingham incident has kind of caught FSG out a little bit, as little as they would have spent anyway. I think the waiting on him and then not paying the price tag kind of left us 2 years behind the rebuild. So it's kind of got to be a quick rebuild now over the next 3 windows. I can see a centre-back coming in January. Maybe somebody coming in now. I can't see anything happening now, but I can see somebody coming in January, and I can definitely see a CDM coming in before this window. I think it was reported that they are looking to sign somebody before Singapore, and knowing how FSG operate, I'm pretty sure it's going to be waiting until the Fabinho and Henderson money comes through, and then using that money to pay it off. That's kind of the way they like to operate, buy to sell, that kind of way.
Supposedly buy to sell, but
supposedly buy to sell.
We haven't sold too much. Tico, definitely. Do we definitely need to bring in a center back before the season starts? Your thoughts?
Yep, I've been talking about it for weeks now. We need to invest in defense, and this game shows us how bad our bench players are when it comes to defending. And Matip, I love Matip. I know how good he's been in the past for us. I know that when he was playing at his best, he was just unbelievable. But he's not there anymore, and his body's not there anymore too. He's injured most of the season, and Stephen was talking about needing a defensive overhaul. But I think we got caught in the domino effect that we were discussing last week, in which we are in a hurry to sign a DM right now. We definitely need a defensive midfielder, a destroyer. Lavia is my first option too. He is good on and off the ball. He's a very good tackler. He is young, and he has quality when he has the ball at his feet. But yeah, we definitely need at least one. My ideal scenario would be one CDM now and at least a center back, and then in January go and try to get a center back, probably a right back too, or somebody who can play both positions, because Gomez is same. Sorry, Rigo, about it. But Gomez is not. He's not there. I. Uh, I don't think he's been playing well for the last two, I would say 3 years now. And for a moment, I thought he would be a good option for the right back position, and trying to get Trent in midfield. But I was wrong, and at least for now, he hasn't shown that he's capable of playing at the highest level in that position.
Before we wrap the book on here, your thoughts, Race? Do we definitely need to reinforce that back line with center back, preferably a left-footed one?
Yeah, we definitely need to at some point, bring in a center back, and I'm kind of the belief that it's more likely to happen in January than it is right now, just because of, again, the more pressing need of getting the CDM and getting a midfielder and solidifying that, because like Steven said, it's not our starters in defense that we're worried about, it's the depth. And so right now we don't really have a starting number 6. So that's something we need to look at right now. And I think, with the status of Matip, he's going into his final year of his deal. And then you have Gomez, who I think has shown, over the last couple of years that he's just been very shaky. I think it's a prove-it year for him. I mean, this is really kind of his last chance, I think, at Liverpool to really show that he belongs in the team, because we keep talking about, the title-winning season, that how good he was, but how long can we keep bringing that up? Like, he needs to start producing again and having some good performances. And so I think January might roll around, and then Klopp starts to think, I need to get someone going now. And certainly we've made the necessary moves in January when we need to get to bring in players that we need. We do have to start thinking about the future of our back line, and of course today. And I don't want to totally excuse today's performance, because again, it was preseason, and sometimes the focus isn't always there. It was a delayed kickoff and no fans or anything like that, and so I certainly specifically with Matip's the goal that he was lazy to get to, that's a concentration thing, and I hope Klopp kind of rips into them and said, hey guys, we need to focus. This preseason is important, especially for you guys who your future is uncertain at this club right now. You guys really need to figure it out, or else we're bringing in a new player. So in terms of bringing someone in the back, I think it's a little bit of a waiting game right now. Hopefully it doesn't come to a point where we're in desperate need of a center back and those two are really unplayable, because they were bad, and they've had some good moments, but we know over the course of a season, the form is up and down, injuries happen, and there's going to be a game where, they're called upon in a big spot. Of course, I just keep thinking about the Man City game last year with Joe Gomez at home, where he was phenomenal. But, again, how long can we keep pointing back to these kind of one-off performances and stuff and saying, that's why we're hanging on to them? Like, there needs to be some consistency in our depth, especially with where we want to be. So I'm looking. I would think January is when we would maybe make a move, but we'll see.
Just share my thoughts on it. I definitely think we need to bring in a left-footed center back, Robertson, and probably more specifically Tsimikas. I don't think can play that role, that left center kind of tucked in left back role. They're even trying Tsimikas in midfield now just to get him into the game as well. And with Virgil, getting on with years, Konate's injury history, Matip again also injury history, and Gomez combination injury history and performance. I think we definitely need reinforcements, but CDM definitely top of the list, followed by center back in my opinion. Once again, make sure to like and subscribe. We're up to 90 viewers now. I should see 90 likes when I check this video after. But thank you all so much for tuning in. Moving on to, we kind of touched on it during this conversation, but moving on to more specifically the transfers transitioning from today's match. Fab and Hendo look to be finalizing their moves. Henderson apparently was at the training facility today, saying his goodbyes to staff there. The team obviously was in Germany this morning, so he'll have to do that via Zoom or Teams, whatever they use over at Liverpool. But sad in the way to see him go, but happy we're recouping some funds for them, and hopefully that gets us moving on to targets to reinforce. 60 million for Marco Verratti. I know the overall sentiment in the comments here, but we have to touch upon it just because it has been hitting Twitter and the rumor mill. Tico, is Verratti a $16 million player? Anywhere but Saudi Arabia.
No, not right now. He used to be probably, but he's 30 now. His injury record is bad, just bad, and just to give him that much money, I don't think it makes sense. If I was gonna give that money, I would give it to Kimmich, who is 32, but he offers a lot more when he's playing than what Verratti offers, and or I would try to go for something better like Caicedo, who's young, he's great, and he is what we need. But not Verratti. No, I don't think so. No.
All right, I think this is going to be a quick topic. Steven, Verratti rumors. Should we shoot them down like Duck Hunt and just not talk about it again?
Oh no, I will pay for him not to come to Liverpool. He's an Italian Thiago, and we don't need another Thiago.
I took offense to that. You put that in the chat either yesterday or the day before. I took offense. Don't put him in the same sentence. But go ahead, make your point.
He's the same kind of player. He's 5'4". Both of my legs weigh more than he does. Like he's going like for a guy that the kind of player we require is the opposite of him. We need somebody that's big, strong, as I said, a destroyer. When you have the likes of Man City who have a Rodri, and now Arsenal after getting Declan Rice and
to go along with Party,
and then along with the likes of Chelsea trying to get a Caicedo and Brighton trying to keep him in that whole drama situation that's there. In order to compete, you need somebody that is just a big, strong physical presence. Technically speaking, and as a football player, Verratti is fantastic, but he's not the player that we need. He's really the opposite of it. There's on transfer market alone, his injury history is 3 pages long. Like, do we really want another Naby Keita? Do we really want to pay another €60 million, £60 million for a Naby Keita? I'd rather take the money and put it towards his rehab, because that's what you'll be spending it on. As a player, he's fantastic to watch. He's very much like Thiago. He's very technically gifted and everything, but he's not a CDM for us in the Premier League. You need as Vesa Flower says in the comments, you need an imposing figure. Yeah, you need somebody that's able to be there and just command there. And Fabinho was that. He's a big guy. But unfortunately, no. Verratti is just, and he's the same player profile as Thiago, and I don't physically anyway, and in some aspects technically, I really don't think he's worth anywhere near it.
Definite downgrade on Thiago. And to me, someone posted on the comments here, out drinking before a match day. He's been with PSG I don't know how many years. Besides Ligue 1 titles, they haven't won Jack squad. Italy squad, they did win the Euros, but missed out on 2 World Cups consecutively. How much of a winner is he? I don't think so.
He's there for the paycheck.
And again, after being spoiled so long at PSG with 0 expectations basically and 0 accountability, stay far, far away. Race, your thoughts on this before we give this rumor the boot?
Let a team like United or Chelsea make that move. They seem to like overpaying for well-known players that are flawed and just overrated in general. Well, again, he's a good player, but he's not reliable and doesn't fit the stature. And I think he'd just get beat up in the Premier League wherever he'd go. So let another team overpay for him. I give it 2 thumbs down for me. Stay away.
All right, for sure. 100% for across the board, and in the chats as well. No thank you for a 5-5 potential CDM. I think he'll get crunched immediately once he makes the transition to the PL, if he ever comes to the PL. Once again, make sure to like and subscribe. Definitely appreciate it. We love your engagement on the chat, as well as giving those likes. Moving on down, Romeo. It seems that we do have our heart set on making the move for him. I think it's really a matter of negotiating down that valuation and putting in a payment structure with Southampton. I don't think they can go into this year keeping him. They do need to raise funds, in my opinion. Tico, should he be our number one target for midfield, or should he be a supplementary one? Would you be happy with Lavia as our big midfield signing to wrap up our transfer season?
Definitely. I've talked about him for so long now, and I don't want to repeat myself, but he is a player that we need right now, and I see future there. He's young. He has so much to improve, and if we are able to sign him, and let's say he's playing next to Trent in midfield, it's gonna be just amazing, really, really good. So yeah, he is in my mind the number one choice to make right now. Definitely.
If we're not going for Caicedo, try to put an
Of course.
asterisk on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Right,
Definitely.
Tico. All right,
Definitely. Yeah.
my
Yeah.
man. Race, your thoughts on Romeo? Should we be going all in for him as our primary CDM target?
Yeah, he's been, my number one target as well. And of course, we're dipping back into the Southampton, Liverpool academy that they, turn out players for us. That price, I think we definitely want to negotiate down from it. And again, we're kind of just waiting for these Fabinho and Henderson deals to finalize, get done before we officially, move on, because you never know what happens in the deals and whatnot. So I think we're just waiting for confirmation, because that's just the type of business that we do. And then, of course, we need a number 6, and I think he'd slot in well. But another little bonus too is, having Man City having that buyback clause for next season. You kind of prevent that move possibly from happening if they trigger that. And so, you kind of, take that out of the equation, especially from a rival. And you have him in our team, and, he's only 19 years old, and he's really can be formed as the number 6 of the future for us. And again, I've said many times, I trust Klopp in the transfers he brings in, especially when, they're really focused on one player. He'll certainly slot in well, I think, with us. Obviously has that Premier League experience, was a tremendous season for Southampton last year. And yeah, I'd be really excited to bring him in, and seems like there's a little more reporting on it coming back up again with these 2 deals outgoing. So hopefully we'll see something happen here soon.
And Steven, your thoughts on Romeo there? Should he be our targeted move to kind of bring in immediately?
Yes, but I don't think we should put all of our eggs in one basket. I think the 3 options that we should have would be the or at least 2 options anyway. Well, or no, 3. I lie. Florento Luis, Doucouré, speaking of which, and then also Romeo Lavia. Now, I've done a lot of thinking on it, and I was a little bit against the Doucouré transfer, or even any rumors in relation to it. But if we're going to play the role that we're going to play and have Trent invert into midfield and play a pivot, he would be the perfect accompaniment to that, because while Trent can deal with everything going forward, Doucouré is basically a centre-back playing CDM, and he could deal with everything defensively. He's fantastic defensively. His statistics are not much like that. He wasn't very high in any passing grades or passing statistics, but at the same time, you kind of have to take that with a pinch of salt as to how Crystal Palace actually played, whereas Fabinho was very high on those statistics because we're a very possession-heavy team. So maybe that could change. Maybe it doesn't. Lavia is somebody that kind of gives you the best of both worlds. He can bring the ball forward, he can hold it, and everything. He would be the number 1, but I do think we need to have a look at Florento Luis as well, because he's just a Klopp player. He's fantastic, and I would very much love to see him in a Liverpool jersey. But those 3 should be the 3 that we're targeting. Doucouré is a little bit older than Lavia at 23. He's already, as he said, he's Premier League proven. Lavia is kind of Premier League proven as well. He was a good player in a bad team, but then again, we were a bad team last year by our standards. So realistically,
you also have to weigh in Lavia, academy, playing for an academy, and then last year, first real professional
exactly
players in the PL. versus Decore, playing in League On 3 years with Lens before moving over to Crystal Palace. And as noted in the chat, he was their player of the season last year.
The only crux of it would be is that Crystal Palace have only just got him, so they really don't have any much of a need or a reason to sell him. They could hold him for another year or two and double his value very, very easily. And if their price is £60 million, as I see a couple of people mention it there, £60 million, I'd rather take that 60 million and put 40 of it on Lavia, and then take the other £20 million and put it towards the Inacio release clause.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, that's genuinely how I would look at it. You could sort your problem out in one payment rather than paying for Decore and then having to pay elsewhere. I think Lavia is going to be the one through the door, but I genuinely think we should properly scout all three players. Not that they haven't already done so, which is why we're rumored with them. But I think they should look at the deals and see what can be done in relation to it. As we said, Southampton need to recoup funds. They are either going to sell him for anywhere from 40 to 50 million, because after next season, City have a buyback clause of 40 million pounds. They could very easily trigger that if they wanted to. So
and just flip him around and sell him for 60, 70, because you got to tack in whatever negotiating tactics they use to get those high transfer fees they've been getting.
Exactly. I'd have Caicedo on that radar as well, purely because of the deal with Chelsea has stalled massively, and Caicedo's having a bit of a falling out with...
There's two of those that make me happy, though. Vardiol stalling with Man City, and Caicedo stalling with Chelsea.
There's a lot of...
The super optimistic LFC fan in me is like, can it be?
You can thank Fabrizio Romano in relation to the Gvardiol issue, because RB Leipzig wanted to keep it very, very quiet so that they didn't get price gouge for their next signing to replace him. And then Fabrizio leaks the whole thing, and now the deal is off for some reason, and they pulled it and they want more money, which, look, we were never going to afford him in the first place, but they may turn around out of spite and sell him to us in a perfect world to annoy Man City for that. And if Caicedo's deal falls through, I think that could be another thing to look at, but it's something that should be monitored on the back end rather than the forefront. And while I agree with Mohammed in saying that Bajcetic is our Lavia, it seems he's being pushed more towards an 8 role rather than a 6 role. And as much as I'd love to see him in that 6 role, he's more progressing towards the 8. And I think that's where Klopp kind of wants to use him. Now, in saying that, if we had Lavia and Stefan Bajcetic as our 2 CDMs going into the season, I wouldn't necessarily be too annoyed about that. We could very easily pick somebody up in January as depth. The only thing is it's a matter of picking the right player. And if anybody watched the Klopp interview the other day, it very much reminded me of when he arrived, that we got to turn ourselves from doubters into believers. And I think we've had a bit of a stumble last season. And as Klopp asked all of us as Liverpool fans to do, trust us. Trust him, trust the team, trust the scouting department, trust the trainers, trust the management staff. I think that's something we need to take a step back and do. Klopp very, very rarely gets the wrong player. The only time I would argue he did was Naby Keita, but that's down to injuries, not down to the player's quality. Because on his day, Naby Keita was a very, very good midfielder.
One of Bundesliga's best players. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's purely injuries that derailed him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, him and Ox we would have been so far gone from Henderson years ago that
100%. And we would have never have tried to get Thiago or anybody like that as well if we still had Keita and Ox and everybody there. Even with Curtis Jones and some of his form problems as well. But Klopp very, very rarely gets a wrong player at a wrong price. Look at McAllister. You can already see the impact he's having. He's a silky smooth midfielder. Same with Szoboszlai. I read as well on Twitter there that Szoboszlai's injury isn't actually all that serious. He only rolled his ankle. And Klopp said if it was a Premier League game today, he'd be playing, but we're not taking any risks in a preseason game. So we can put anything to bed with that. It's an ankle roll. Anybody that's played professional or amateur sports knows that can hurt like hell for a day or two, and then you're fine. It's just a bit of swelling.
Yeah, high ankle sprains can last for months on a personal basis. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've had them
experienced
too.
that,
They're
but professionally, poof, imagine with the stress there.
yeah. No,
Old man hand raising right there, at least on my part. But
no, I can understand that, but I think it's nothing to worry about. You're not going to take a risk on your £60 million signing on a rolled ankle. You let him sit for a preseason game. It'll be very telling. No, it's not worth it. It's going to be very interesting to see how things shape up as we go to Singapore very soon. And I think we'll be it's going to be a busy week for us. I think there's going to be outgoings, incomings, and a lot of business being done in the next 14 days. And with the news of Kylian Mbappe possibly going to Saudi Arabia in that bonkers, mad deal.
Money laundering.
Oh, 100% is money laundering. That's pure fraud. It's 100% pure fraud. How can a Qatari-owned club sell to the Saudi Arabian League for 300 million and then a 700 million salary only to let him go to Real Madrid the following year for free anyway? It just screams of money laundering. There's no other way to say it. And look, I guarantee in the next
we'll leave
couple
that
of
to
weeks,
the overall footy discussion, but
yeah,
more LFC related. Tico, I'll go over to you for our next subject there. Palhinha, yesterday injured his shoulder. Apparently, we don't know the severity of it yet. But your thoughts? Would you have been happy bringing in Palhinha or not? Or are you happy he got hurt so we can kind of put to bed the rumors of him coming in?
Well, I'm concerned about the fact that as soon as he was told that Liverpool was interested, he was injured. But no, I mean, he's good. He is a rare player because he is an excellent destroyer. He's very physically strong, and we would need that. My concern is when the team is in possession, he's not great. He's not really good on the ball. Especially Fulham was not a great team, but it was a very good team last year for compared to some other teams or compared to what everybody expected of Fulham starting the season. But he's just not great on the ball. He would be good. He would be decent if we are able to get Lavia and get him for a very good price. Yeah, why not? But yeah, he wouldn't be that first player for this first team player that we are looking for right now as a defensive midfielder.
I'll go over to you, Race. Blessing in disguise that Palhinha got hurt yesterday.
I mean, it's the Liverpool curse, right? I mean, as soon as you're linked to us, you just all of a sudden go down with an injury. Yeah, I mean, he's one of the names that popped up. And, again, we don't know. Obviously, we have our rumored interest in midfielders, but you never know, who might come available. I mean, I remember back when we bought Ox, that was kind of a deadline day move, because we just kind of, I guess he was available and we purchased him. It would have been interesting a move for him. I don't think that's kind of a signing you want to make as like your featured number 6. I'd have liked him along with someone else. I'm not quite sure what the price tag was. I don't think it was too expensive, but I don't think 28 years old.
I wanted a lot for him, at least 60 plus. I think they were
okay. Yeah, I think for a price like that, I would stay away. Especially again, it's not really the type of transfer that Klopp would make. He wants a midfielder right now that's young on the younger side, can kind of grow into the role. Hasn't reached his peak yet. Palhinha is kind of a player that's probably at his peak right now, or at least getting close to it. So it just wouldn't make sense to make a move like that. So again, we're seeing the moves align here with what we want to do. So I think Palhinha is out of the picture now, especially with that injury and our dire need for a number 6. And you don't want to bring in a player who's going to be recovering from an injury now and have any doubts of coming back. We want a player that's going to hit the ground running, because we don't want to slip up at any point here in the season. We know how important every single game is especially if you think about being in a title race and whatnot. You can't really have any doubts. So it's unfortunate that he got hurt. Hopefully, he can heal up for them. But yeah, I think with that injury, certainly out of the picture now.
And Steven, your thoughts on Palhinha, blessing in disguise?
Oh, massively. So if we were to sign him, I'd rather go back and re-sign James Milner, to be perfectly honest with you. It was never a rumor that gained any sort of attraction with me. I thought it was just paper talk. I genuinely did. Like, for the price alone, why would you? And secondly, we're trying to get younger, not older. So it's about time we started looking at some of them younger guys we mentioned earlier, the likes of Lavia, the likes of Caicedo, the likes of Florento Luis, Ducore, those kind of guys. We need guys that last for another 5, 6, 7 years, not guys that last 5, 6, 7 weeks. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, how much better can Palhinha get as a player? I don't think that much. I think we've probably seen his zenith as far as what he can do on the pitch. Obviously, with a better team around him, those attributes will improve, look better, and be more noticeable, I think. But at his price point and at his age, I think, to me, at least it was a non-starter in my opinion. If we had gotten him last year before that PL tax, then yeah, we get a good 4 years out of him until he's 30 years old. That would have been a good level-headed signing. But after his year at Fulham and what they're trying to get for him, I'd rather take a risk on a couple of youth players with talent than I would on Palhinha, especially since you can build up their value and then resell them if they don't turn out to be what you want. Going on to some positive news, we're up to 100 people on the chat, so on the viewership. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I should see 100 likes by the time the stream's over. Thank you all for joining. Liverpool have made a center back signing. We've been crying out for it, and we actually did make a signing. Harvey Elliott, signing him over from the Wolves Academy. Pretty sure none of us have any real thoughts on the player, but besides that, it's good to always grab talent. Tico, are we done shopping for a center back now?
Well, if you ask John Harry, yeah, probably. He was listening to us and he was like, "Oh, we need a center back right here. You got it, young, so you can develop it."
Steven, your thoughts on young Harvey Owen?
I haven't watched anything of him. This is the first time hearing about it, and I'll happily admit that. It's exciting in a way because, yeah, he's 14. We wouldn't really be sounding all too well if we were saying we were watching 14-year-olds, but that's just my own opinion on it. But it's probably best that we don't know much about him. But yeah, look, moving away from that, it's exciting. It's a young guy that'll come in, maybe build into a team, could be a center back for years to come. I don't really keep track of any of these young academy guys because there's so many of them, and a lot of them don't make it, unfortunately, and they move to lower clubs and lower leagues and everything like that. It's kind of when you go into working a job with a high level of turnover and you become friends with someone and all of a sudden they leave and they quit within 6 weeks of you landing in. It's kind of that kind of a way that you don't get attached to them or know of them.
Say, hey, buddy, instead of bothering to learn their name.
Yeah, that kind of a way. Like you know that we've all probably worked those kind of jobs, like a bar job or a restaurant job where there's a high turnover and you'd see one person for 3 weeks and then all of a sudden they're gone and then a new person to come in their place, and there's no point in learning names. But it's exciting. Look, it's a young centre back that we could mold in. I don't know his potential. I might look into him a little bit more now that he's a Liverpool player and see what that £800,000 bought us in relation to it, and see some other people's that will be in the nose relation with it. But yeah, it's interesting to see, and hopefully he develops into a good, strong player.
Definitely. I think we'll wrap the subject on Harvey Owen. I'll bring up a subject from the chat here, and that's the discussion around Harvey Elliott. What is his role next season? He, in my opinion, he performed pretty well this match. He had the hockey assist to set up Salah, who then again set up Darwin for his goals. But what do you foresee his role being this upcoming season? I'll go over to you first, Race.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, again, we think of a young player who's kind of really had his first full season with Liverpool. Of course, the season prior, he had that nasty ankle injury, so he came back later in the season. But this is really his first kind of breakthrough campaign, if you will. And he played a lot in the midfield, and we cried out the whole season that our midfield was kind of our weakest point. And so sometimes, obviously he's a talent, and you could see that he has it. But I think early on, just kind of struggled to at times, especially defensively. That's his weak point right now. And with Harvey, it's I see him kind of as I use the term tweener when he's kind of caught between two positions because he's not really fits the physical profile of a right winger, which I think is where he's played at, kind of an understudy to Salah. Yeah, he's not fast. The good quality has he's a left-footed player, so he kind of fits that profile that Salah was or is, but he's not really beefy enough. And again, defensively, what we ask of our midfielders, he isn't really that. And so, I know he got a lot of hate or a lot of people were unhappy with some of his performances. And again, I just he's only 20 years old. He's still his best days are ahead of him. And it's good to see that he's certainly a liked player within the team and certainly has the respect of Klopp and all that. I think there's definitely a future for him with this team. Just maybe right now we certainly had to bring in some players to fill that role because I don't think he was necessarily ready right away to become a featured player. And so I'm excited to see what he can accomplish. Of course, we have, our Europa League games and stuff, and he'll certainly, I assume, feature, and even in regular games as well, of course, because we know it's a long season and having good squad rotation as well. I see him kind of as, operating, certainly, as one of our midfielders kind of in that rotation. And hopefully, what we're kind of looking for more from him is more production in front of goal, providing a few more goals and assists as well. We kind of need him to be that, creative outlet, that midfielder running forward. And so we brought in players to be more attacking. So hopefully Harvey can kind of learn a few things and continue to develop because he certainly has a bright future.
Tico, what do you think Harvey's role will be in this upcoming season?
Well, I'm a massive Harvey Elliott fan, but I agree with Braze. It's kind of weird. We've played him as a center midfielder, but he's not. His physicality is not good enough. He's not good at defending. He is not good at playing in that box-to-box position, and I just don't see him as a center midfielder. As a right winger, he used to be really good with Blackburn Rovers playing that position, but then the way he plays is not what we ask of our wingers. And again, you need a lot of physicality, running a lot. He's not pacey enough to be a right winger for us. So I honestly believe this is just not the right system for him. He's an attacking midfielder who would fit a lot more if we played in a 4-2-3-1 system or something like that, in which he could be exploiting the spaces in behind between midfield, the midfield line and the defensive line. But that's just not the way we play, and that's why I feel sorry for him because I really, really love him, and I think he has a massive talent. But again, we're just playing him in positions and asking of him things that he's not capable of doing.
Point taken there, Tico. Steven, I think a lot of the conversation around Elliott kind of centers around what he can't do. But there's plenty of things that he can do on the pitch. And as we highlighted, that hockey assist, the 2 hockey assists he had today. what's his role in your eyes on the team? In my opinion, I think he's going to be one of our top appearance getters this year. Do you see the same?
I would, but not in Premier League games. I think he's very much going to fall into your Carabao Cup, your FA Cup, and your early stage Europa League games until it gets to like the quarters and semi-finals and that, when you need your starters there, when you're in a deep cup run. I think he has an opportunity to make minutes there, but I'd agree with both Tico and Reyes. He's very much a tweener, and that's fine, Vase Flowers, if you want to say we don't expect too much of him at his tender age. But you have the likes of Ben Doak out there that's 3 years his junior, playing better on the right wing than him. You have Stefan Bajcetic, who's younger than him as well, playing better than him in midfield. I understand that he's a 20-year-old kid and that he's a lot of work to do, but I think the clock is ticking for him. I genuinely do. I think as Tico said, he's an attacking midfielder. He likes a central role that he can go either side. He likes the space. He's not your prototypical right winger that we would require. That's like a Salah that can be a physical bit of a presence. He reminds me an awful lot of Jota, but in a different manner, because Jota, as we mentioned earlier in the stream, he's not the biggest, he's not the strongest, he's not the fastest, but he has that knack to be in the right place, and his positioning is fantastic, and it's like a mental thing. And I don't think Elliott has that yet. Now, it could develop, but usually the mental aspect of the game is one of the hardest things to develop. The physical stuff comes easier than the mental stuff of you can be the best player in the world, but if you don't know where you're supposed to be, you can't utilize your own talent. I think the clock is ticking for him. I think while he will be giving plenty of opportunity this season, if he doesn't seize it, he may be gone next summer. I think, and while I wouldn't like that to happen because he is a good midfielder and a good player, I don't really see a role for him in this midfield and forward rebuild, so to speak, or retooling, shall we call it. I don't necessarily see where he slots in. He's not ahead of Curtis Jones. He's not ahead of McAllister, Szoboszlai. He's not. I don't put him ahead of Ben Doak, to be perfectly honest. I don't put him ahead of Salah. He's not ahead of any of the guys in the center that will be the likes of Nunez, Diaz, Gakpo, and Diogo Jota. And he's not going to go out on the left-hand side. Maybe he could fill in as a backup for Diaz, but then he's a left footer out on the left wing. It wouldn't necessarily work the best for him. And
I overlap instead of cutting in.
Yeah, he could possibly do that, but then that pulls Robertson out of what Robertson does best and overlapping around the outside of Diaz. I think he's the odd man out, and I think he needs to kind of find his role. What I would not be opposed to is if they decided to loan him to another Premier League club and get him playing time, because he could develop into a very, very good, solid player. But I don't think our system at the moment and the player personnel that we have suits him, unfortunately.
All right. Just to close out with my thoughts before we put onto the stream. I think he's going to get a ton of appearances, but mostly off the bench. Starting wise, is going to be very, very tough for him to get into the starting 11 unless there's an injury that occurs. Development wise, I think I would hope by now, with what we've seen from him, that they know they kind of have to accommodate him if he were to get on the pitch. Likely more defensive support from wherever he is playing. Creatively, and these stats bear it out as well. He has a ton of chance and goal-creating actions that lead up to good chances. And those stats, he had plenty of game time to kind of prove that those stats aren't an aberration. Now, with a more solid defensive team behind them to kind of not put that weight of having to cover Salah, having to help out with Trent, I think he can shine even more and give him more freedom to be creative. But again, that just comes down to team structure. Squad-wise, I think we can't loan him out just for the simple fact that he knows what our tactics are. He's been well drilled in them for 4 years now. And if we did have an injury, I think he would step in as a starter. And again, we are in a deep team. We don't have that many homegrown players, so we kind of have to keep those guys that we don't have to register and have talent on the squad, i.e. Doak, i.e. Elliott. So he's going to have plenty of opportunity. I hope he continues developing as a player. Curtis Jones took a while as well. I think we're finally seeing the fruits of that labor coming to fruition. So that's all I can hope for Harvey. But yeah, I think there's a player there, and he bleeds red from the get-go. So those are the guys you want on the squad, who knows how much it means to put that shirt on and how much it means to them emotionally, not just paycheck-wise, to play for the shirt. So I'm all on board Harvey, the Harvey train. I hope he continues developing, and there is definitely a role for him on the squad. But with that, we're running at an hour 15. Thank you, all you guys, for joining on. It's been a great conversation today. 4-4 draw. We didn't come out with a win, but plenty of positives to take away from today's preseason match. The boys are heading back to England before departing for a week to Singapore. Hopefully, before they depart, we have at one, if not two, incomings now that Fabinho and Henderson's moves are being finalized. For myself, Rigo, as well as Steven, Race, and Tico, we thank you all from the LC Transfer Room. Have a great day, and YNWA.